The last thing my husband said to me before I almost died was, "Trust me, Emily." I remember the way his hand felt on my knee as he said it. Cold. Not nervous cold, not tired cold. The kind of cold that doesn't belong on someone you've shared a bed with for 8 years. The kind that makes something deep inside your chest tighten before your brain can catch up. If I had trusted him that morning, I would have been on that plane, and I wouldn't be here telling you this story. It was a Tuesday just after 9 in the morning when David pulled up to the departure curb at SeaTac. The sky was that dull Pacific Northwest gray, the kind that presses down on everything and makes the world feel smaller. He didn't park, didn't even turn off the engine, just popped the trunk and said, "You better hurry. You don't want to miss check-in." I remember pausing with my hand on the door handle. "Aren't you coming in with me?" He didn't look at me, just kept his eyes fixed on the traffic ahead, fingers tight around the steering wheel. "I've got to return something at the mall. I'll meet you at the gate." 20 minutes. 20 minutes. We had over an hour before boarding. I should have noticed that. Instead, I leaned over and kissed his cheek. It felt like kissing a stranger. His skin smelled different too, not the cedar cologne he'd worn for years. Something sharper, expensive, new. "Gate C7, I said, like I needed to remind him. "I know," he replied, too quickly. "Just go." So I did. I stepped out into the rush of rolling suitcases and hurried footsteps, the hum of announcements echoing overhead. For a moment I stood there, watching his car, waiting for him to look back. He didn't. The Lexus merged into traffic and disappeared like I was already gone. Inside the terminal, everything felt normal. People lined up for coffee. A couple argued quietly near the check in kiosks. A grandmother fussed over her grandson's jacket, life moving forward in small, ordinary ways. And yet, something in me wouldn't settle. It wasn't just the way David had rushed me out of the car. It was everything leading up to that moment. The phone calls he took in the hallway the night before, the way he checked my bag himself, the way he said, "This trip will fix everything," like he was trying to convince himself more than me. I told myself I was overthinking. After everything we'd been through, the grief, the distance, the quiet dinners where neither of us knew what to say, maybe this was his way of trying. Maybe this was him choosing us. But as I stepped into the security line, I felt it again. That tightness in my chest, that whisper of something wrong. And then I saw him, not where he was supposed to be, not heading toward the ticket counters or the security line. He was standing behind the glass partition on the wrong side, the side for people who weren't flying anywhere, watching me. His phone was pressed to his ear, his back half turned like he didn't want to be seen, but his eyes were locked on me like I was something he needed to track. Like I was already in motion and he needed to make sure I didn't stop. I froze. For a second, I thought maybe he'd changed his mind. Maybe he was about to come join me, but he didn't move. He just stood there, speaking quietly into his phone, his jaw tight, his free hand gesturing in sharp, controlled movements. And then a woman in a TSA uniform started watching him too. I didn't know it yet, but in less than 10 minutes, that woman was going to walk up behind me, lower her voice, and say 5 words that would save my life. "Ma'am, don't get on that plane." I didn't move when she said it. For a second, I thought I had misheard her. Airports are loud places, full of overlapping voices and rolling announcements, the constant hum of people going somewhere else. But her voice had cut through all of that, low and steady, like it was meant only for me. "Ma'am, I need you to come with me." I turned slowly. She was standing close behind me, close enough that I could see the fine lines around her eyes, the kind that come from years of watching people and learning when something isn't right. Her badge read, "Laura Jenkins, TSA, 18 years. My first instinct wasn't fear. It was embarrassment. Did I do something wrong? Is it my bag? You're not in trouble, she said, calm, but there was something in her tone that made my stomach drop. But I need you to step out of line. Now. Now. That word did something to me. I glanced over her shoulder, back toward the glass partition. David was still there, still on the phone, still watching me. And when our eyes almost met, he turned away too quickly, like a child caught doing something he shouldn't. My chest tightened. Is this about my husband? I asked before I could stop myself. She didn't answer right away, just held my gaze, measuring me, like she was deciding how much I could handle. Then she said quietly, "He just made a call that I didn't like." Didn't like? It sounded so small for the way my heart suddenly started pounding. "What kind of call?" I asked, but my voice didn't sound like mine anymore. "A call where he mentioned your flight number," she said, "and a policy, and a payout if something happens. Something happens." The words hung in the air between us, heavy and impossible to ignore. I felt the floor tilt under me, just slightly, enough that I reached out and steadied myself on the metal barrier beside the line. "That doesn't make any sense," I said quickly. "He's a financial guy. He talks about policies all the time. Used to be." I didn't say that part out loud. Laura's eyes didn't leave mine. "Ma'am, I've been doing this a long time. I know the difference between normal and wrong. That was wrong." Behind me, someone in line sighed impatiently. A man in a business suit shifted his weight, annoyed that I wasn't moving forward. The world was still going on like nothing had changed, but everything had. "I need you to come with me," she repeated, softer this time, but firmer. "We can figure out what's going on, but you cannot board that plane until we do. Cannot. Not shouldn't. Not maybe. Cannot." I swallowed hard. "If I don't get on that flight, he's going to know something's wrong." "Yes," she said simply, "and if you do get on that flight, I can't guarantee you'll be safe." Safe. I thought about the way David had grabbed my phone in the car, the way he kept checking the rearview mirror, the way he had said, "Trust me," like it was something I owed him. I thought about the envelope he'd slid across the table that morning, the tickets, first class, Las Vegas, something we couldn't afford. I thought about the smell of that new cologne, and suddenly, for the first time, I asked myself a question I hadn't been brave enough to ask before. What if I didn't know my husband at all? My legs felt weak, like they might give out if I stayed there any longer. I nodded once, small and uncertain. "Okay," I said. "Okay, I'll come with you." Laura didn't touch me, but she stepped close enough to guide me, her presence steady and unyielding as she led me away from the line, away from the gate, away from the life I thought I understood. As we walked, I couldn't help myself. I looked back one last time. David was gone. Not walking away, not heading toward security, just gone. And for the first time that morning, I felt something colder than fear settle deep in my chest. I felt certain. Whatever was about to happen, he had planned it. The room they took me to didn't have windows. It smelled faintly like burnt coffee and something metallic, like old air that had been recycled too many times. A metal table sat bolted to the floor, 2 chairs on either side, and a mirror on the wall that I knew, even in that moment, wasn't really a mirror. I sat down because my legs didn't feel like they belonged to me anymore. Laura stayed standing for a second, speaking quietly into the radio clipped to her shoulder. "Passenger secured, requesting airport police and task force. Possible code yellow, escalated, code yellow." I didn't know what that meant, but I knew it wasn't good. When she turned back to me, her voice softened just a fraction. "What's your name?" "Emily Carter." "And your husband?" "David Carter." The words felt strange in my mouth, like I was saying someone else's name. "What's going on? You're scaring me." She pulled out the chair across from me and sat down, folding her hands on the table. "Emily, I need you to think carefully before you answer this. Has your husband been acting differently lately? I let out a short, humorless breath. Define differently. More secretive. Financial stress. Sudden changes in behavior. All of it. Every single thing. Yes, I said quietly. He lost his job last year. Said he was consulting, but I've never seen any proof. We've been getting collection notices. And then this trip, I shook my head. It doesn't make sense. We can't afford it. Laura nodded like she had expected that. Has he ever talked about life insurance policies? Specifically one on you? My stomach dropped so fast it felt like I was falling. No, I mean, not on me. He used to work in finance. He talked about insurance in general, but we never. The door opened before I could finish. 2 men stepped inside, one in a police uniform, tall, broad-shouldered, calm in that way that told me he'd seen worse things than whatever this was. The other in plain clothes, early 40s maybe, with tired eyes that didn't miss anything. "Emily Carter?" the man in plain clothes asked. I nodded. "I'm Detective Ryan Brooks, Seattle PD. This is Sergeant Daniel Reyes." He pulled out a chair and sat beside Laura, setting a notepad on the table. "We're going to ask you a few questions, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Can you do that?" My throat felt tight, but I nodded again. "Do you know why your husband would mention a $2 million policy connected to you this morning?" $2 million. The number echoed in my head, too big, too unreal. "I don't have a policy like that," I said quickly. "I would know. I would have signed something." Brooks didn't react. He just watched me for a moment, then reached into his jacket and pulled out his phone. "We're going to find out," he said. "With your permission, I'm going to contact insurance databases and run your name." "Yes," I said immediately. "Of course. There's nothing to find." He nodded once and dialed. The room felt smaller as we waited. I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears, loud and uneven. Laura didn't look at me anymore. She was watching the detective, her expression tight. The call connected. "Secure life insurance. Fraud division," a woman's voice answered. Brooks put it on speaker. "This is Detective Ryan Brooks, Seattle PD. I need to verify a policy under the name Emily Carter, date of birth." He read it off his notes. There was a pause, typing in the background. Then the woman spoke again. "I have a record. Term life policy. $2 million. Policyholder Emily Carter. Beneficiary David Carter. Effective date March 15th of this year." The air left my lungs. "That's not possible," I whispered. "I didn't sign anything." Brooks's voice stayed calm. "Can you send me the application and signature page?" "Sending now." He ended the call and opened his laptop. It took less than 10 seconds for the email to come through. He turned the screen toward me. There it was. My name, my address, my date of birth. And at the bottom, my signature. Except it wasn't mine. "That's not..." My voice broke. I leaned closer, my hands shaking. "That's not how I sign my name. The E, I always curve it. That's straight. And the C in Carter..." "This is a forgery," Brooks said quietly. "Forgery." The words settled over the room like a weight. I stared at the screen, at the version of myself someone had tried to create on paper, a version that could die and leave everything behind. "Why would he do that?" I whispered, even though I already knew the answer was sitting right in front of me. Brooks didn't answer right away. He studied me for a long moment, then said, "Emily, I think your husband was planning something, and whatever it was, he paused. It involved you not coming back from this trip. I couldn't feel my hands anymore. They were resting on the metal table in front of me, but they didn't feel like mine. Like they belonged to someone else sitting in that chair, someone watching her life come apart piece by piece. That doesn't mean he was trying to kill me," I said, but even as the words left my mouth, they sounded thin, fragile, like glass already cracked. Detective Brooks didn't argue. He didn't need to. "Emily," he said quietly, "I need your permission to pull your husband's financial records, Bank accounts, credit reports, transaction history, anything that might explain motive. Motive. I closed my eyes for a second, and all I could see was David's face in the car that morning, the tightness in his jaw, the way he wouldn't look at me, the way he said trust me like it was the only thing that mattered. Yes, I said. Do it. He nodded and turned his laptop back toward himself, fingers moving quickly across the keys. The room filled with the soft clicking sound, steady and relentless, like time counting down to something I couldn't stop. It didn't take long. His expression changed first, just a slight tightening around the eyes, a stillness that hadn't been there before. "That's not good," Sergeant Reyes muttered under his breath. "What?" My voice came out sharper than I meant it to. "What did you find?" Brooks exhaled slowly, then looked up at me. "Your husband has been unemployed since November of last year. He's been collecting benefits, but those ran out in May." I nodded. I knew that. "There's more." He turned the screen slightly so I could see. He's carrying over $60,000 in credit card debt across multiple accounts, all maxed out. Collection started calling in June. 60,000. The number hit me like a physical thing. "We've been getting letters," I whispered. He said they were old. They're not. The room felt colder. Brooks continued, his voice steady but softer now. Between January and May, he made several large transfers to a cryptocurrency exchange. Total amount, approximately $280,000. I stared at him. That's my parents' money." He didn't correct me. "According to the records," he went on, "those investments lost almost all of their value. There's less than $5,000 left." My chest tightened so hard I couldn't breathe. $3.8 million. My parents' entire life, everything they had worked for, reduced to numbers on a screen I had never bothered to check because I trusted him. "There's one more thing," Brooks said quietly. I almost didn't want to hear it. "In July, your husband took out a private loan, $95,000. The lender is under investigation for racketeering. Loan sharking." I let out a shaky breath. "What happens if he doesn't pay it back?" Brooks and Reyes exchanged a look. "He probably doesn't get a second chance," Reyes said bluntly. Silence settled over the room, and then it hit me. Not all at once, but in pieces that came together too quickly to ignore. The debt, the lost money, the insurance policy, the trip, Las Vegas. My throat went dry. "He wasn't trying to fix our marriage," I said slowly. "He was. I couldn't finish it." "He was setting something up," Brooks said. My phone buzzed on the table. All three of them looked at it at the same time. "Is that yours?" Laura asked. I nodded. Brooks slid it toward me but didn't hand it over. "It's your husband." I stared at the screen. David Carter. Missed call. Another one came in immediately, then a text. "Where are you?" Another. "Why aren't you at the gate?" Another. "Emily, answer me." The messages started stacking on top of each other, one after another, faster than I could read them. "Please just get on the plane." That one made my stomach drop. He wasn't asking if I was okay. He wasn't worried about me. He just wanted me on that plane. "Why does he care so much?" I whispered. Brooks didn't hesitate this time. "Because he thinks you're supposed to be on it." The announcement came over the speaker before I could answer him. "Final boarding call for Flight 447 to Las Vegas. All remaining passengers. Please proceed to Gate C7 immediately." The words echoed through the walls, muffled but unmistakable, like a countdown I couldn't stop hearing. I stared at my phone as it buzzed again in my hand. "Emily, please. I love you. Just get on the plane." My stomach twisted. "He thinks I'm still going," I said quietly. Detective Brooks nodded once. "He needs you to go." "Why?" Neither of them answered right away. The silence stretched just long enough to feel like a warning. Then Brooks leaned forward slightly, his voice low and careful. Because whatever he planned, it only works if you're on that flight. My chest tightened. You're saying he wanted me to die? I'm saying, he replied, we don't know exactly what he planned yet, but we know he created a $2 million insurance policy without your consent. We know he's desperate, and we know he's pushing you to board that plane. Another buzz, another message. If you miss this, everything is ruined. That one made my blood run cold. Everything. Not us. Not the trip. Everything. I looked up at him. If I don't get on that plane, what happens? He panics, Brooks said, and people who panic make mistakes. And if I do get on it? This time, Sergeant Reyes answered, we can't protect you once that door closes. The room felt smaller, the air heavier. I glanced at the clock on the wall. 10:29 in the morning. 1 minute. Just 1 minute before boarding ended. I thought about the drive to the airport, the way David kept checking the mirror, the phone calls, the way he grabbed my phone out of my hand like he was afraid of who I might talk to. I thought about the envelope, the tickets, the smile that never reached his eyes. And then I thought about my parents, about the day I signed everything over to him because I couldn't think straight, because grief had hollowed me out and left me needing someone to trust. I had trusted him. That was the problem. Emily. Brooks's voice pulled me back. Look at me. I did. You don't owe him anything, he said. Not your trust, not your life. My hands were shaking now, but not from fear, from clarity. The kind that settles in your bones when something finally makes sense, even if you wish it didn't. I exhaled slowly. I'm not getting on that plane. Brooks nodded like he had been waiting for that. Okay, he said, then we do this the smart way. The announcement came again, sharper this time. Gate C7 is now closing. All remaining passengers, this is your final call. I felt something inside me snap loose. Not fear, not panic. Something else. Something steadier. 2 minutes later, the door to Flight 447 closed. And 12 minutes after that, everything changed. I didn't hear the crash. Not at first. What I heard was Laura's phone buzzing. She glanced down at it, and the color drained from her face so fast it scared me more than anything else that had happened so far. Brooks, she said, her voice flat. You need to see this. He crossed the room in 2 steps, took the phone from her hand, and stared at the screen. I watched his expression change, watched the moment it hit him. Then he turned toward me. Slowly. Too slowly. Emily, he said, and something in his voice made my chest tighten again. What happened? I asked. No one answered. Tell me, I said louder now. He hesitated, just for a second. Then he turned the phone so I could see it. Breaking news. Pacific Airways Flight 447 crashes into Puget Sound shortly after takeoff. No survivors expected. The words didn't register at first. They just sat there on the screen, meaningless shapes my brain refused to understand. No, I said. My voice didn't sound like mine. That's not. But it was. 10:42 in the morning, 12 minutes after the doors closed, 156 people. Gone. My legs gave out before I even realized I was falling. And the last thing I remember before everything went dark was one single, impossible thought. I was supposed to be on that plane. I didn't faint. I wanted to. There was a moment where the edges of the room went soft and distant, like I was slipping underwater, but something held me there, anchored just enough to feel everything. The chair hit the back of my knees before I realized I was sitting. Someone pressed a cup into my hands. Water. I didn't drink it. 156 people. The number repeated in my head over and over, but it didn't feel real. Nothing did. This is my fault. I didn't mean to say it out loud. Detective Brooks dropped into a crouch in front of me so fast his chair scraped against the floor. "No, don't go there. If I had gotten on that plane, it would have been 157, he cut in, firm. That's the only difference." His eyes held mine, steady, unyielding. "The crash wasn't caused by you. It wasn't caused by your husband. We don't know the cause yet, but this was an aviation failure, not sabotage. Do you understand me?" I wanted to argue. I wanted to find a way to make it my fault because that felt easier than what was actually sitting in my chest. But I nodded anyway, because part of me understood and part of me didn't. The door opened behind him. A man stepped in, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a dark suit with a badge clipped to his belt. "FBI," he said simply. "Special Agent Daniel Harper." The room shifted again. This wasn't just about me anymore. Harper set a tablet on the table and looked directly at me. "Mrs. Carter, I need you to stay with me for a few minutes. I'm going to explain something, and it's going to sound complicated." I swallowed. "Okay." He tapped the screen, then turned it toward me. Airport security footage, Gate C7. A man in a baseball cap and sunglasses stood at a self-service scanner holding up a phone. A QR code flashed on the screen. Beep. Green light. Access granted. The timestamp read 10:18 in the morning. My stomach dropped. "That's your boarding pass," Harper said. "Or a copy of it." I stared at the figure, at the way he moved, at the angle of his shoulders. "No," I whispered. But I already knew. "That's your husband," Harper said. The words landed heavy and final. He used a screenshot of your mobile boarding pass, scanned it at the gate so your name would appear on the manifest. The room spun again. "But I wasn't there," I said. "I was here. You saw me." "We know," Brooks said. "But the system doesn't. The airline's preliminary manifest is based on scans, not physical verification." I looked back at the screen. At the moment, my name was written into something I never stepped onto. "Right now," Harper continued, "according to official records, you were on that flight. The weight of it hit all at once." "I'm dead," I said. No one corrected me. Harper nodded once. "As far as your husband is concerned, yes." Silence stretched across the room. Then something colder slipped into place inside me. "He thinks it worked." "Yes." I stared at the paused image on the screen, at the man I had spent years loving, trusting, building a life with. He wanted me on that plane so the insurance would pay out. "That's our working theory," Harper said. "If your name is on the manifest, the claim goes through faster, less scrutiny, less doubt. And if my name wasn't there, he risks delays, investigations, possibly denial." I leaned back in the chair, the metal cold against my spine. "So he made sure I was there," I said. "On paper," Brooks corrected. "The distinction didn't make it better. It made it worse. Because it meant this wasn't panic. This wasn't desperation. This was planning. Careful, precise, calculated." I closed my eyes for a second, then opened them again. "What happens now?" Harper didn't hesitate. "Now," he said, "we let him believe you're dead." My breath caught. "What?" "For the next 72 hours, your husband thinks his plan worked. That gives us a window." "To do what?" "To watch him," Brooks said, "and wait for him to prove it." I looked between them. "You want me to disappear?" Harper nodded. "We want him comfortable, confident. People who think they got away with something, they get sloppy." I thought about David's face, the messages. "Please get on the plane. Everything is ruined." And for the first time since this started, something inside me shifted. Not fear, not grief, something sharper, colder. "Okay," I said. Both of them watched me closely. "You want him to think I'm dead?" I continued. My voice didn't shake this time. "Then let's see what he does with that." The safe house didn't feel safe. It felt quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that makes every thought louder, sharper, harder to ignore. I sat in a folding chair facing 3 laptop screens, each split into small black and white squares. 12 camera feeds, every room in my house. My house. The place I had called home for 8 years. The place where my husband had planned to erase me. Detective Brooks sat beside me, a paper cup of gas station coffee in his hand. He hadn't left since we got there. "You don't have to watch," he said quietly. I didn't look at him. Yes, I do. Because if I didn't see it with my own eyes, some part of me would still try to believe there was a misunderstanding, that there was some version of this where David wasn't the man they were describing. At 2:34 in the afternoon, his car pulled into the driveway. My breath caught. "There," I whispered. On the screen, the familiar silver sedan rolled to a stop. The driver's door opened. David stepped out. He looked normal. That was the worst part. No panic, no grief, no confusion, just normal. He walked to the front door, unlocked it, stepped inside, and disappeared from the exterior camera. A second later, the living room feed flickered as he entered. He dropped his keys on the table like he always did, walked to the center of the room, and stopped. For a moment, he just stood there looking around like something was missing, like something had changed. My chest tightened. "Maybe he knows," I said. Brooks shook his head slightly. "Watch." David sat down on the couch, pulled out his phone, and then nothing. 5 minutes passed. He didn't move, didn't call anyone, didn't speak, just stared at the screen. "What is he doing?" I whispered. "Waiting," Brooks said. "For what?" "For confirmation." The words settled heavy in my chest. Another minute passed, then another, and then it happened. It was small, so small I almost missed it. The corner of his mouth lifted, just a little, a flicker. 3 seconds, maybe 4, but I saw it. "Did you see that?" My voice cracked. Brooks didn't answer right away. Then he nodded. I saw it. Relief. That's what it was. Not shock, not grief. Relief. I felt something inside me break, clean, quiet, final. David stood up, walked to the kitchen, opened the fridge, and pulled out a beer. He twisted the cap off slowly, took a long drink, and leaned back against the counter. His shoulders dropped, like he had been holding tension all day, and now he could finally breathe. "He thinks I'm dead," I said. "Yes." I watched him on the screen. This man I had loved, this man I had trusted with everything I had, standing in my kitchen like nothing had happened, like 156 people hadn't just died, like his wife hadn't been one of them, except she had. At least, in his world, she had. At 6:48 in the evening, headlights appeared in the driveway. A familiar car, old, faded, the bumper sticker still peeling at the edges. "No," I whispered. The driver's door opened, and there she was, Megan, my best friend. She walked up to the door, clutching something in her hands, her shoulders shaking even from the grainy camera angle. She knocked. David opened the door. Megan took one look at him and collapsed into his arms. "Oh my God," she sobbed. "I'm so sorry." He held her, one hand on her back, the other resting gently on her shoulder. Comforting, steady, perfect. I watched his face over her shoulder, dry eyes, calm expression, no tears, nothing. "She doesn't know," I said. My voice felt hollow. "She thinks I'm gone." "I'm sorry," Brooks said quietly. Megan pulled back, wiping her face. She said something I couldn't hear yet, her mouth moving quickly, emotions spilling out in waves. David nodded, led her to the couch, sat beside her, listened. Every movement controlled, measured, convincing. He reached out, handed her a tissue. put an arm around her shoulders, and for 2 hours he played the part. The grieving husband, the broken man, the one everyone would feel sorry for, until 8:52, when Megan stood to leave. She hugged him again, tighter this time. "I'm here for you," she said. I couldn't hear it, but I knew. I knew her voice. He nodded, walked her to the door, watched her leave, and the second the door closed, his face went blank. Just blank. He turned, walked back into the living room, sat down, pulled out his phone, and smiled again. This time, it lasted longer. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the same chair staring at the screens until my eyes burned, until the images blurred together into something unreal, like I was watching someone else's life instead of my own. At 11:14 in the evening, David turned off the living room lights. At 11:22, the bedroom light went out. I waited. I told myself I was waiting for something human. Restlessness. Regret. A moment where he would sit up in bed, stare into the dark, realize what he had done. But it never came. The night vision feed showed him lying still, one arm draped over his chest, breathing slow and even. He fell asleep within minutes, like nothing had happened, like I had never existed. "He's not even trying to pretend anymore," I said. Brooks didn't look away from the screen. No. Morning came quietly. At 6 o'clock, Brooks returned with breakfast sandwiches and coffee. I hadn't moved. "You need to eat," he said, setting the bag down in front of me. "I'm not hungry." "You need to eat anyway." I picked at the food without tasting it, my eyes still locked on the screens. At 9:12 in the morning, David walked into the garage. "There," Brooks said, leaning forward. The single camera in the garage flickered to life as motion activated the feed. David stood in the middle of the space, phone already in his hand. He started pacing, smiling. That was the first thing I noticed. He was smiling, not the small, controlled smile from yesterday. This was different, bigger, looser, excited. He was talking fast, his free hand cutting through the air as he spoke, gesturing sharply like he always did when he was energized. "Who is he calling?" I asked. "We'll find out," Brooks said. David laughed. Actually laughed. His head tipped back slightly, shoulders relaxing in a way I hadn't seen in months. Then he stopped, listened, nodded quickly, ended the call, and pumped his fist into the air. A victory gesture. I felt sick. "That's not relief," I whispered. "That's celebration." Brooks didn't argue. He pulled out his phone and sent a quick message. "We'll get the call logs. I want to know who he just talked to." David walked back into the house, still smiling, still energized, still happy. "He's not grieving," Brooks said. "No," I replied, my voice flat now. "He's not." That night, at 11:47, another car pulled into the driveway. A different one, sleek, newer. The headlights cut clean across the front of the house before the engine shut off. "Who is that?" I asked. Brooks was already typing. The driver's door opened. A woman stepped out. Slim build, long hair. She moved like she knew exactly where she was going. She didn't hesitate, didn't knock. She walked straight to the front door and opened it, like she had a key. My stomach dropped. "No," I whispered. Inside, the living room camera caught everything. David met her in the hallway, and before I could even process what I was seeing, he pulled her into his arms, held her tightly, like he hadn't seen her in years, like he had been waiting. They stayed like that for a long moment. Then she pulled back, her hands on his face, searching, emotional. Her lips moved quickly. I couldn't hear her yet, but I could see the panic, the confusion. And then he smiled, soft, reassuring. The same smile he used to give me, the one that used to make me feel safe. "She thinks I'm dead," I said slowly. Brooks nodded once. "Looks that way." They moved to the couch, sat close, too close. Her hand found his. His thumb brushed over her knuckles. Familiar, intimate, practiced. How long? I whispered. Brooks didn't answer. He didn't need to, because I already knew. This wasn't new. This wasn't grief. This was something that had been there long before the plane ever left the ground. They talked for a while. Then she leaned into him, resting her head against his shoulder, and he wrapped his arm around her like it belonged there, like she belonged there, like I never had. 10 minutes later, the bedroom light came on, and then it went off again. I stood up so fast the chair scraped loudly against the floor. I can't watch this. My voice broke, but I didn't care. I didn't want to see any more. Didn't want to hear what came next. Didn't want to know how deep this went. But as I turned away, the speakers crackled to life. A soft click. Green lights blinking across the screens. Brooks looked up. Audio just came online. I froze halfway to the door. For a second, I thought I had misheard him. Audio? I turned slowly. Brooks nodded, already leaning over the keyboard. Judge signed the warrant. We're live now. A soft hum filled the room as the system activated. Tiny green indicators lit up on each feed. Every room. Every word. Are you ready? He asked. No. I wasn't. But I walked back anyway, because not knowing was worse. Because some part of me needed to hear it, needed it to be undeniable. I sat down again, my hands gripping the edge of the table as Brooks adjusted the volume. Static. Then, oh my God, David. Her voice, clear, shaking. I saw the news. I saw her name on the list. I can't believe. Hey, David said softly, calm, controlled. Hey, it's okay. Come here. Fabric rustled as they shifted on the couch. She was crying. I could hear it now, every breath, every broken sound. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I know things were complicated, but she was still your wife. This must be... It's over. His voice cut through hers, flat, certain. The room went still around me. What? She asked. I said it's over, he repeated. She's gone. We don't have to hide anymore. Silence. Heavy. Uncomfortable. What do you mean we don't have to hide? She asked slowly. I mean exactly that. I could hear the smile in his voice now. No more sneaking around. No more lies. It's just us now. My chest tightened so hard it hurt. David, her voice dropped. There were people on that plane. Wrong place. Wrong time. He said it like he was talking about traffic, not 156 lives. David, she said again, sharper this time. You can't say things like that. Why not? It's true. A pause. Then softer, almost amused. Fate did us a favor. I stopped breathing. Beside me, Brooks went completely still. Neither of us spoke. Neither of us moved. Because we were both listening to the same thing, the same confession, the same man. You've been trying to figure out how to tell her about us for months, she said, her voice trembling. And now she's just gone. Exactly. No hesitation, no guilt. Everything worked out, he continued. Better than I planned, actually. Better than he planned. The words echoed in my head. David? That's horrible. It's honest. Glass clinked in the background. A fridge door opened, closed. What are you doing? She asked, celebrating. A cork popped, liquid poured. I'll drink for both of us, he added lightly. To us, to our new life. Silence stretched. Then, to us, she echoed. But there was uncertainty in her voice now. Fear. She was starting to understand. Too late. Give it a few weeks, David continued. Insurance processes faster with airline disasters. 2 million clears were done here. 2 million. He said it so casually. Like it wasn't my life. Like it wasn't my death he was talking about. 2 million, she whispered. Jesus, David. I told you I'd take care of everything. You said we'd talk to her. You said we'd figure things out the right way." "We did," he replied smoothly. "This is the right way." My hands started shaking again, not from confusion anymore, from rage, cold, sharp, focused. "And after?" she asked. "We leave," he said, "somewhere warm, somewhere quiet. No one asking questions." A pause. Then softer. "Just you and me." Fabric shifted again, a faint laugh. Then, "and the baby." The words hit me like a physical blow. I blinked. Once. Twice. "No," I whispered. But the audio didn't stop. 5 months, she said quietly. "We were supposed to tell her together. We don't have to tell anyone anything now," David replied. 5 months. 14 weeks. While I was still sleeping next to him. While I was still believing we were trying to fix things. I felt something rise in my throat. Hot. Violent. Uncontrollable. I stood up so fast I barely made it to the bathroom in time. And when I dropped to my knees, shaking, the only thing I could hear in my head was his voice. Calm. Certain. Celebrating. Like my death had given him everything he ever wanted. I rinsed my mouth and stared at my reflection like I didn't recognize the woman looking back at me. My eyes were red. My hands were still shaking. But underneath all of that, something had settled. Something steady. Something that didn't break this time. When I walked back into the room, Brooks looked up at me, searching my face like he expected me to fall apart again. I didn't. "He's done," I said quietly. Brooks nodded once. "Yeah, he is." Agent Harper was already on the phone, his voice low and precise. "We have verbal confirmation. Conspiracy, fraud, intent. Get the warrant signed. We move tomorrow." Tomorrow. The word felt strange, like time had shifted, like I had stepped out of one life and into another without realizing it. "What happens now?" I asked. Brooks leaned back slightly. "Now we let him keep talking, keep planning. We gather everything. Then we walk in and end it." I looked at the screens again, at the house, at the couch where he had just sat with her, at the kitchen where he poured himself a drink to celebrate my death. "I want to be there," I said. Brooks didn't answer right away. "I want him to see me," I continued. "I want him to look at me and realize I'm still here." Harper stepped back into the room. "That's not standard procedure." "I don't care," I said. My voice didn't shake. Not this time. He tried to erase me. He planned it. He celebrated it. "I'm not staying hidden while you arrest him." Silence. Heavy, measured. Then Brooks exhaled slowly. "We'll make it work." Harper studied me for a long second, then nodded. "Tomorrow. 2:30 in the afternoon. He'll be home. We go in with a full team." "Tomorrow." I nodded. That night I didn't watch the screens. I didn't need to. I had seen enough. I sat by the window of the safe house, staring out at the dark, thinking about everything I had ignored. The signs, the distance, the way he stopped looking at me like I mattered. I had called it stress, grief, a rough patch. I had told myself love meant staying, meant trusting, meant believing even when things didn't feel right. I was wrong. Love doesn't ask you to silence your instincts. It doesn't ask you to ignore the voice in your head that says something isn't right. And it definitely doesn't ask you to die for it. The next afternoon, I stood in front of my house again. Same driveway, same door, same life. Except this time, I wasn't walking into it blind. Brooks stood beside me. Harper on the other side. Behind us, agents moved into position. "Ready?" Brooks asked. No, I would never be ready. But I nodded anyway. The door opened, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't walking in as his wife. I was walking in as the woman he failed to kill, and that changed everything. If you made it this far, don't forget to like and subscribe, and comment below with 3 simple words that matter more than anything else now. I choose me.